In North Carolina, you must review the compliance history. The previous caller mentioned that none of these companies have operated safely anywhere they were, and so we tried to determine exactly how they had operated, regardless of where their facilities were. We actually went to the state agencies, we went to the facilities, we audited those facilities, we looked over their records to see exactly how good or bad that they were in their operation. Past that point, then we're going to be asking them to design the facility, to provide insurance, to submit applications for permits. The state agencies will review those permits. Once those have been acceptable permits or have been deemed acceptable for the building of the facility, we will then construct the facility and begin operation.
Okay, what happens after the facility is built? How will the state and the communities around the facility make sure that it's operating safely? And how will the facility be monitored by the state?
Layla, that's an excellent question, and I think many of our citizens ask us that question probably more often than anything else. And we have set up a set of redundancies, of duplicative and moreover facilities that monitor and control the access to the facility, that control the kind of waste that are there, as well as control the emissions that would be a part of this process. We have spent an awful lot of time trying to give the local community comfort in that we will protect their health. We have also suggested, the Commission has suggested, that because there is some mistrust for government in this process, that we need to provide them an opportunity to monitor this facility themselves.
What, you mean the community itself?
That is, the community itself would have an active role in monitoring, have access to the facility, free access to the facility, to come in and look over the records to be sure that it's doing its job the right way.
All right, that sounds like quite a chore. Let's take a look and listen to a discussion between Darrell and Chuck Wakel, Deputy Director of the Division of Environmental Management. We'll continue taking your calls right after this tape.
Chuck, the Division of Environmental Management has responsibility for water, groundwater, and air monitoring regulations. What do you anticipate doing for water and groundwater regulations for the hazardous waste management facility?
Well, the monitoring requirements that we'll impose will be sufficient to ensure us, so that we can ensure the public, that the facility is not creating any kind of environmental problem. Specifically for water quality, we don't anticipate a wastewater discharge. Nevertheless, we anticipate the possibility of some monitoring associated with stormwater runoff. The specifics will be related to the specific site and the facility, but in general will require that the runoff from the site be monitored by the company to show there are no pollutants that have reached the surface water. And further, the state will likely establish a couple of monitoring stations downstream and one upstream to do biological kinds of testing, so that we can actually tell from the biology of the stream what impacts, if any, are showing up. In groundwater, we'll be looking most probably at a series of wells around the landfill to ensure that there is no leakage of contaminants out of the landfill. Those will be sampled periodically at a frequency we haven't decided yet, but probably on a more frequent basis than usual, simply to ask or to be certain again that that we could say with certainty that there is no contamination coming from the facility. We will analyze require analysis for metals, organics, and other parameters. These will be done by the company, by the operator, submitted to us for periodically review. We will also sample those wells from time to time and do our own analyses as backup to ensure that that what the company has submitted is the same. Okay. As with the water quality, will also be a self-monitoring for the most part, again with the state inspectors periodically collecting samples and sending them in.
Okay. The public seems to be very concerned about emissions from the incinerator, those emissions that might contaminate or pollute the air. What do you envision doing about air monitoring?
Well, prior to the division permitting the incinerator, there will be a showing that the company can meet all of the recently adopted air toxic standards. In terms of the monitoring associated with that, there will be some continuous emission monitoring for a number of parameters. Again, one of them will be some sort of organic carbon indicator and some other parameters. This will be done on a continuous basis by the company. The data will be submitted to us at some frequency, monthly or quarterly. We haven't talked the specifics yet. In addition to that, there will be specific instances of sampling the stack while in operation that the company will do. Possibly we will do some of that ourselves, where on a given instance, an air sample will be taken and tested for a whole range of organic, inorganic chemicals. The specific chemicals will be defined more by the particular feed stock that goes in. What kind of hazardous materials are being burned in there? That will determine the more specifics of the monitoring. Again, on a periodic basis, a state inspector from DEM we would anticipate would visit the facility probably on a monthly or quarterly basis. That kind of frequency is substantially more than what is usual for a facility of this size, but again, given the importance to the public